Hello, welcome to Blue Fact. Today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Here is my story. My wife and I had a great life together. We met within a church and started dating when she was 23, and I was 21. We were ready to get married in the eyes of God after 2 years of dating. We didn't move in or sleep together before that, opting to wait until marriage. I was sure she was an angel. She knew how to cook and even brought me cooked meals while we dated. She made it clear that she knew how to be a traditional wife that honored her husband. She was so good at being the perfect example of a Christian woman and wife that she wrote a book. It was really good. And a lot of her publicity started within her family church and hometown. She found a connection to a Christian publication company that supported her and what she stood for. We spent every moment together, and I fully supported her unexpected career as an author. For 3 years, we had an amazing, peaceful marriage. She was my rock. I loved how she excelled at the duties of a wife while managing to work on her second book. Before either of us knew it, she was going on her very first book tour. When she returned home, I unpacked her suitcase in the morning while she slept. A copy of her book fell out of a bundle of clothes. When I picked it up, I noticed she had signed it to someone named Ray with a sweet message and her phone number. I was so confused. Why would she do this? And why would she still have the book mixed in with her clothes? I woke her up and asked her about it. She seemed stumped and panicked but played it off as sleepy irritation. She asked me why I was going through her stuff. I told her I just wanted to help her unpack and found this. She calmly explained that it was for a woman named Ray who loved her book and had gotten lunch with her. She'd accidentally left it on the table when she left, so my wife planned to give it back to her. This didn't sound right. How did she leave the book without my wife being able to stop her? I pointed out that the spelling was likely wrong if she really was a woman. My wife asked me what I meant by that, saying it wasn't fair for me to assume she was lying. I asked her one more time if she was telling me the truth, and she swore she was being honest. She started to look genuinely concerned when she realized how upset I was. She got up and gave me a long hug, kissing my neck, swearing that I was the only man for her and her life together had only just begun. I left the room feeling confused and slightly concerned. A few days later, I got home from work and noticed her through the living room window talking on the phone. She was laying on the couch, bouncing her crossed legs and spinning her hair. She was smiling ear to ear, giggling, biting her lip. She looked adorable, but I had no idea who she talked to like that. When I walked in, she must have hung up on the person because she was instantly off the phone, greeting me as if all was normal. Over dinner, I asked her who she was talking with on the phone. She looked a little surprised that I saw, but she quickly and shamelessly admitted it was the woman Ray. I wanted to check her phone to see what number it was and try to call it. That night, for the first time, my wife put her phone under her pillow to sleep, claiming it would be easier for her to hear her alarm. I thought about demanding her phone right then and there, but I honestly started to doubt myself. I wasn't sure she was up to anything out of the ordinary because she was normally a social butterfly. Just because she was talking to someone or multiple people didn't mean she was cheating on me. I really wanted to sleep that night because I was exhausted, so I didn't start anything. The next morning, she told me she was going to be home late because she was going to meet with her publishing agent, Tracy. This made sense because she was working on a second book. I asked her how it was coming along, and she read some of it to me. I asked where they'd be meeting, and she told me where the publishing office was located. I told her I thought they closed at 4, and she said she was going late because that was the only time Tracy had available to see her. I asked why they couldn't meet another day and explained that I didn't like it when she wasn't home when I was off work. My wife snapped and said she'd been feeling this sense of distrust lately, and she hated it, before walking away. She told me I needed to knock it off. That was the first time my wife ever said anything like that to me. I drove to the publishing office after work and found the parking lot empty, 0 cars. I drove around aimlessly for a bit, calling my wife over and over. I felt extremely lost and betrayed. I went home and tried to stay awake to wait for her, but I fell asleep around 1 a.m. I'm surprised that I didn't wake up whenever my wife got home. She just snuck into her room and went to bed. I found her the next morning, sound asleep. I checked my phone and noticed a delayed Easy Pass notification. My wife never took the turnpike anywhere unless it was to promote her writing career. And in those situations, she always told me. I was sure now she was having an affair, but I wanted to catch her red-handed so she couldn't lie to me anymore. The time I spent waiting for her to actually separate from her phone felt like an eternity. She didn't make it obvious that she was texting, but I could tell she was in communication with someone. When she finally separated from her phone, it was because she spilled a soda and went to grab a towel. I grabbed her phone and went into the bathroom. I installed a tracking app as quickly as I could. hiding it in a utilities folder on her phone. I didn't have time to look through her phone for anything. I just prayed this would work. I heard her wonder out loud where her phone went. I decided to call the house phone as a distraction. When she went to answer it, I jumped out of the bathroom and put her phone in the couch cushions. She didn't have a clue. I got home from work a week later, and she told me she was going to a book signing the next day, hours away, so she'd be spending the night in Lancaster. That town made sense according to the Easy Pass charges. I pretended to be fine with it, but I knew I was going to follow her. She planned to depart while I was at work, so I had to call off. I couldn't focus on work anyway since I suspected my wife of infidelity. I called Tracy to ask about the book signing my wife was going to. She validated my concern by telling me that there wouldn't be another book signing for months. When I told her I suspected my wife of cheating on me, she said if that was the case, they wouldn't continue working with her to promote her book. I lost her for a bit after she got off the exit, but I was able to locate her on the tracking app she was adding in. I parked and watched her bring in her luggage. Not even 10 minutes later, another car pulled up. A man got out with flowers and knocked on her door. She answered it and squealed. She was so excited she threw her arms around his neck and started kissing him passionately. His hands immediately started feeling her body and intimate parts. I jumped out of the car and sprinted over to them. When they heard me and turned to look, my wife made a very distressed noise that I never heard her make before. First, she asked me what I was doing there. I asked her what he was doing here. He asked me who I was, and I wanted to punch him. I yelled that I was her husband, and he started backing off. He threw his arms up and went for his car. My wife called after him and looked at me like I just broke her heart. She started stammering. She wanted to be mad at me, but she was the one that was caught. I accused her of cheating on me and throwing away our entire relationship and life together for some random man that read her book. I started walking away, realizing this was the worst moment of my life and it was only the beginning of the end. My wife chased after me, trying to convince me to talk to her. I told her I didn't have another word to say, and she should spend her energy trying to save her job. I left her there in the parking lot. She tried calling me and texting me several times, all while I canceled the bank cards she had that connected to my bank account. I knew she was counting on that for Easy Pass and her car payment. I stopped on the way home for new door locks. She showed up the next day and tried to use her key. When that didn't work, she stomped around the backyard, trying to slide open the glass door. Her name wasn't on the mortgage because her credit was non-existent. I was going to make sure she suffered the consequences of wasting years of my life and cheating on me. I yelled through the glass door that she didn't deserve a house, home, or husband. She stood there and tried calling me 12 times while making eye contact. I just sipped my coffee. I felt proud. I knew I could call the police on her at any moment and have her removed from my property. And I think she knew that, which is why she was trying so hard to be sweet. She left voicemails while standing at the back door. I walked away when she said she loved me. She started yelling and crying. I came back a half hour later, and she was still there, through the back door. She begged me not to tell her parents or the church about what she'd done. She didn't want them to know she lost her career and husband by cheating. She begged me to give her a few trial days to see if she could make up for what she'd done. I laughed at her. There's nothing anyone can do to recover from cheating on their spouse. You just don't do it. While she sat there, I called her parents. She pounded on the glass in frustration, realizing she had nothing and no power. Her reputation was about to be shot within her church and family, and her book career was already brought to a screeching halt. As I spoke to her parents about what she'd done, she drove off angrily, probably to try to convince them it wasn't true or ask them for a place to stay. Either way, she was back in 2 hours, laying clothes from her suitcase on the porch like she was going to sleep there. I called the police, and she was ordered to leave. She threw a fit but narrowly avoided an arrest. To this day, she is still trying to find stability in life. She keeps hopping from sketchy to dodgy situations and relying on her very poor choices. Her Christian life, marriage, book, and family are all things of the past. She's living a very different life now. My reaction: there is never any excuse for a cheating spouse. But it seems so much worse that she went against her own writing and values for something so worthless. What does an affair do besides cause absolute destruction and pain? Even if the truth is slow to come out, it always does, especially for people who are making money off of fake personas. From what it sounds like, your ex will never fully recover from giving up the husband she chose under God. This is a great lesson for our readers to always uphold personal values and morals. Never betray other people, especially people you love, for perceived personal gain. It never works out in the end when karma catches up to you. If you liked it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story. Hello, welcome to Relation Tales. Today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Here is my story. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joni, and today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Now, let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. My wife, 35 female, and I, 37 male, were together for 12 years. She was a teacher at our town's high school. She was a teacher there for 8 years before this happened. We talked about having kids, but she always said she felt like her students were the only children she could handle. There were families whose children she taught and helped graduate high school. A lot of these kids would become independent, working adults in the area, armed with the knowledge they learned from her. At school parties or meetings, graduates would often attend with their younger siblings and parents to thank their teachers and update them on their life. This happened often for my wife, and she was always so proud. I was there the night that one of her former male students, who was in his early 22nd, returned to thank her and chat about the career path he chose. She was beaming as she spoke to him, more than any other time I'd witnessed her talking to someone. The only other time I saw her being like that was on our wedding day. I chalked it up to her passion as a teacher and knowing she improved her students' lives. So, life continued on as it always does. And everything was going great between us and in our careers. We were cuddling on the couch one night when we started to make out, and I pulled off her shirt. As I kissed down her neck, I immediately noticed a hickey on her chest. It completely threw me off. I hesitated but stayed quiet. I decided to act like I didn't see anything. I'm pretty sure it was shock and denial that prevented me from telling her what I saw. Later, long after she fell asleep, I laid awake overthinking about the hickey. Eventually, I just got out of bed, grabbed her keys, and went to snoop in her car. I put my hands everywhere, feeling for anything weird. I checked a few receipts, but they were innocent enough. The trash wasn't suspicious either. I stuck my hand in the back seat pockets and found, to my dismay, an empty condom wrapper. I was completely numb, and I could only think of hiring a pie. I wouldn't be able to take off work to follow her, and she'd spot me or my car from a mile away. I didn't want her to know I knew anything. Otherwise, she might get extra sneaky. So, I took some money from my savings and hired a pie. I told him everything he needed to know, and he went to work. I couldn't help but call my parents to tell them what was going on. They basically told me they always thought she was capable of cheating. I was shocked. I asked them why they didn't bother telling me, and they said they wanted to let me make my own choice. My mom thought they were just being picky parents, but she could see now that their hunch was worth mentioning. The pie followed her for 4 weeks undetected. He took several photos of them together, kissing, shopping, seeing a play, entering and leaving a hotel room, always hand in hand. The worst pictures were of them in the back seat of my wife's car, parked in the school parking lot. I was sick to my stomach when I realized that P was just a boy, the very same boy my wife used to teach just 2 years ago. I was so upset. While my wife was teaching in her classroom the next morning, I took the evidence to the principal with the request that my wife be fired. He held an impromptu meeting right then and there, calling the higher-ups on video call. It took less than an hour for everyone to agree that this was a violation of the teacher's conduct and ethical rules. She violated school policy by engaging in intimate relations with a former student. As a result, the principal and I went to pull her out of the classroom to break the news to her that she was being arrested for sleeping with her former student. She was mortified, grabbing her mouth and her side. She started sobbing as the principal told her she was officially on leave until a decision could be made regarding her employment. I was so pleased to see her suffering. This was all her fault. It was just a short time later that the decision was made to fire her. She got the news right after she moved out of my house into a previous co-worker's. Weeks after that, she was served the divorce papers. Although by now she knew they were coming, she basically accepted that her life was ruined, over, and done with. I soon found out that this young man my wife cheated on me with was a newlywed. His wife was just 19 years old. It was pretty easy to find her email address on social media, so I sent her a little present, that being the proof that her husband was already cheating on her. My ex and him both only thought of themselves and made very, very bad decisions that led to life-altering consequences. I am happy to report that since this AP and my ex have both had to start a new life far away. My wife had trouble getting a job here since news spreads fast. I'm doing my best to move on from what happened, and I'm taking it one day at a time. Now, let's get into the second story. My wife and I had an arranged marriage, and it was miserable. Still, we conceived kids, and I never, ever would have cheated on her. She was still my wife, and I had respect for our union, even though I didn't necessarily want to be married to her. I took care of her from the age of 18. And after 14 years of marriage, I trusted her. She lived each day as a stay-at-home mom, while I provided for our family. She did everything for us at home. All the laundry, cooking, and cleaning. The kids were always happy, clean, and obedient. Honestly, I just thought she was meant to do this in exchange for her hard work at home and as a mother. She asked me if she could go out with her friends every Monday and Tuesday night. I wondered why it always ended up being those 2 days, but I didn't ask. After how good she was to me and the kids, I would have felt bad telling her no. She just said she had friends and wanted to go out with them each Monday and Tuesday night. I stayed home with the kids, and she always got back around 1 a.m. after the first couple of weeks of her doing this. I asked how she met her friends in the first place. She told me that on Saturday mornings, she would take the kids to yard sales while I slept in the neighborhood. She met one woman named Taylor who introduced her to her group of friends. It made sense to me. I asked her why she never took any pictures with her friends on their nights out. My wife had a social media account, but she never posted anything like that on there. The answer I expected was that she didn't want her parents to know she was party. But that's not the answer my wife gave me. Instead, she got really tense. She said they didn't like being in pictures. I thought that was a little strange. I asked her if she was friends with Taylor on Facebook, and she immediately said no and excused herself to go to the bathroom with her phone. I checked her Facebook friends on my phone and saw someone named Taylor, but their profile picture wasn't very clear. When I clicked on the name, the page went blank and loaded. When I refreshed the page, the name was gone from my wife's friends list. Then she came out of the bathroom. I instantly felt like we were 12 years old or something. I didn't like how this made me feel, so I asked her if she deleted Taylor from her friends list. She just very calmly said, I didn't need to worry. Then she woke the kids up for school one day. Shortly after that, I came home from work and grabbed the mail. I noticed a letter from Capital One. I curiously opened it and felt my heart start pounding as I scanned the page and found out that my wife had spent $1,500. I was the angriest I'd ever felt in my life. This was not the kind of purchase either of us would make without talking about it first. I immediately went inside, showed her the letter, and requested to see the online statement and purchase history. She was terrified, but she opened the account and let me see it. There was a large storage house for $1,000. I asked what it was and where it was. She was already crying, knowing she was caught and wouldn't be able to lie about this. She confessed she bought it for another man. She looked sick to her stomach. So, I asked her if she was in a relationship with this man. She nodded, ashamed. It was Taylor. I was still angry. I remained loyal to this woman all these years, having my children with her, knowing it was the right thing to do, only for her to cheat on me. I took care of this woman since she was just a girl, only for all that effort to backfire. She disgraced me and her families. I told her I wouldn't pay for a peace gift and kicked her out. She was shocked, scared, and embarrassed. She hadn't been without me since she was 18. Living with her parents. Our kids were crying, wondering why mommy was stuck outside. I wouldn't continue this relationship for another moment. When she realized I wasn't going to let her in, she had no one else to call but AP. She probably didn't even consider calling her parents, who would never speak to her again if they knew what she did. He came to pick her up, and I was even more furious. It was almost worse than letting her back in. Fast forward 1 month later, I already told my parents what she did to me and how I was now having to face life as a single father. Somehow, they refused to admit they made a poor arrangement for me. Divorce papers were being processed, but she hadn't been served yet because I didn't know where she was staying. She called me crying her eyes out. She said AP kicked her out too because he had another girlfriend who was 3 months pregnant with his child. When he found out she was pregnant, he wanted her to move in and my wife to get out without him, me, or her parents. She really had nowhere else to go because the friends she claimed to have weren't real. She begged me to take her back into our marital home and forget all about the divorce. She said she needed me, even though she was undeserving of my forgiveness. All I ended up doing for her was buying her food. I wouldn't let her come back into the home, much less live with us again. She was destined to be my ex because she chose to cheat on me. Her parents were so embarrassed by her and her actions that she was disowned. In the divorce proceedings, she was ordered to pay me child support. She could only see the children if she met me somewhere like a park because she claimed to be homeless. I think she was staying somewhere really embarrassing and sketchy, so she preferred not to tell anyone about it. Somehow, she's still been able to meet us at the park for visits with the kids, but I never see a car. It's like someone drops her off for hours, or she really is homeless. She doesn't look happy. That much is clear. That's the story. If you liked it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello, welcome to Blue Fact. Please like this video and subscribe. Blue Facts. Here is my story. Story 1. My colleague got me pregnant while my husband was stationed abroad. Now, my husband wants to divorce me and leave me with nothing in my heavily pregnant state. I, 25-year-old female, have been married to my military husband, 32, for the past 2 years. We met at a restaurant near a military base on a trip with my family. My dad approached a table with men in military uniform and said something to them, and he hit it off with my dad, who's a veteran. Later into our dining, my dad introduced him to our family, and our tables joined. We kept eyeing each other the whole time. In respect of my father's presence, he didn't ask me out or ask for my number at the table. Instead, he slipped me his number under the table. I contacted him, and we started talking. We tied the knot about 6 months into dating. I know this might seem like a short time of knowing each other before such a huge commitment, but we just knew that we were meant for each other. When we got married, we got a house from the government, one of the many benefits of being in the military, and being a military spouse. A year ago, my husband got drafted. Before leaving, he sat me down and we talked about how we were going to communicate, how he was leaving his cards to me so that I could take care of the finances and his parents while he was gone. We talked about the future, what to expect, and our hope for building a family and how excited he was to be a dad. When he left, we kept in contact as we talked about, and we were doing this long-distance thing quite well. It was great to see his face and talk, but it was lonely. Seeing his face on a screen at certain times of the day was not enough. I wanted to be touched, I needed to be held, and he wasn't there. Sometime later, my company hired a new guy, and I had to show him the ropes. He was handsome, consistent, and always showed interest in me. Initially, I resisted his advances and clearly stated that I was happily married, which he didn't seem to care about. Later, his small actions of bringing me snacks, inviting me to dinner, just talking, and slight touches got to me. I was lonely, touch-starved, and I missed my husband. One night after our usual dinners, we had a bit to drink, and he kissed me. I kissed him back. I came to my senses and ran off. I felt so guilty afterward that I couldn't face my husband in our video calls. What made me feel even guiltier was the fact that after, I couldn't stop fantasizing about my colleague and our kiss and what it could have been. I tried avoiding him at work, but it was impossible. He came to me and apologized for making me uncomfortable, and we talked. One thing led to another, and we kissed again. We were not able to deny the desire, so we agreed on a purely sexual relationship. We would meet up in secrets. Initially, we started at motels, then each other's houses. It was pure ecstasy. Yesterday, I found out that I was 3 months pregnant. I thought the unstable moods, sensitive nose, nausea, and weight gain were due to lack of sleep, stress, and unhealthy eating habits that I had developed due to the pressure and busy schedule at work. I eventually went to see a doctor about these symptoms and found out that I was pregnant, and had just finished my first trimester. I'm shocked and scared. There's no way that it's my husband's. I haven't been with my husband for almost a year. He'll know that I cheated if he sees me. What do I do? How do I hide this? Update: 2 months ago, I posted a story on getting pregnant by my colleague while my military husband was drafted and stationed abroad. Well, I couldn't do anything about the baby because it had already passed the first trimester, so I'm pretty pregnant as I speak. My husband came to surprise me for my birthday 2 months ago. He was not supposed to be back for another 3 months, and I hadn't yet mustered up the courage to tell him I was pregnant. To say that he was shocked and angered to find me pregnant would be an understatement, but what caught me off guard was the complete and utter disgust that he displayed. He threw a fit, breaking things and ruining the decorations for my birthday, and was scolding me in front of my birthday guests. After that, he left in a rage, and I haven't seen him since. We all tried calling, none of us can reach him, including his parents. We're all worried and have no idea where he is and what state he's in. We even called shelters, hospitals, and police stations. Nothing. I just need a chance to explain. Edit: this is not a good edit. A week after my husband went missing, his parents called mine and told them not to worry. He called and told them he was safe. Even they, his parents, refused to talk to me and are asking my parents to persuade me to sign the divorce papers. He sent them after all I've done for them while their son was away. I was the one that took care of them and made sure that they were okay. I feel so betrayed by their behavior. Why doesn't he come here himself so that we can talk about this like adults? It doesn't have to end this way. How could he treat me like this in the state that I'm in? He's always wanted to be a dad. Now that there's a blessing in our lives, he wants to abandon me. If we divorce, do I lose the house? I can't believe he wants me to end up in the streets while I'm pregnant. Final update. It's been a while since I last updated. I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Her biological dad got a promotion and hightailed out of there as soon as he could. He couldn't handle the whispers and stares we got at work. Well, neither could I, so I quit being jobless and recently divorced. Yes, he divorced me. I had to find a way to take care of my baby. That's why I sued my husband for child support, and I won child support and got to keep the house he paid for since he bought me out of it. I still feel cheated, though. He makes way more than he's paying for child support, and he refuses to meet the baby. I'm currently talking to a lawyer to take him to court again to have the child support increased since I don't have a job anymore and cannot live the lifestyle that I'm used to and want to live. But my lawyer says it's a moot point, especially considering he isn't even the real father. My lawyer says not to press my luck, but I really need the money. I just want to take care of my child, our child, to the best of my ability. Story 2. I need some input from someone who's gone through a similar situation. Some backstory: we met in 2014 and fell in love instantly. There was a huge spark, and we were inseparable. We went to all kinds of events together and had a great time, always doing whatever we did. I always told her, though, don't cheat on me, and I won't cheat on you. I've never been cheated on, and I was raised with good moral values. I would still buy her flowers spontaneously. I'll handwrite cards for her. I do a lot of little things because if it's one thing I know, it's that life is all about the little things. Of course, like any relationship, we started getting comfy and doing fewer activities, staying home a lot. Now, I'm a huge advocate for talking about what's going on and how one can overcome it. I know our relationship was lacking in the sex department. It had gotten to the point where I would have to ask for sex. There was no more passion like there used to be. If I don't say anything, it can be upwards of 2 weeks before she brings it up. She says that she doesn't feel that spark, and she doesn't think about sex. Well, she cheated on me 2 months before our wedding at a bar with some guy who she told me there was a spark. Now here's the kicker: she sat me down post-cheating and before I knew about it and told me she was unsure about the relationship and where things were going. I calmed her and said, hey, what can I do to help improve things? She said, you can do X, Y, and Z, and hopefully that will improve things. I busted my ass off for those 2 months, doing all this stuff, and every time things were going good, she would get into a mood about her happiness and how this wasn't working. I'm sure it was her guilt eating at her. Either way, she didn't tell me until 2 weeks before our wedding, on the day my father passed away years ago. So that day is already tough for me, as it is. I was incredibly upset about this. What was I doing all this for the past 2 months? What were the last 3 years? Who was by your side when you were recovering from a terrible car accident? She told me she was sorry and she would never do it again. I said that we can try to work things out. We got married anyway, and now 2 months later, I don't know if things are getting better. I still love her dearly, and I want to work things out, but am I holding on to something that isn't there anymore? I know our relationship is a two-way street, and I just feel like I'm putting all this effort into it and not seeing results. Has anyone been in a situation similar to this and overcome it with your so? How long did it take for things to start getting better? Comments, man, you screwed up royally. How could you just marry her like nothing happens? No, it's impossible for you to salvage this relationship. Only she can do it, but apparently she doesn't give a frick. Why would she anyway? She cheated on you, stomped on you, utterly disrespected you, and you married her anyway. Why should she take an effort if she apparently can take you for granted? Keep working your ass off while she's looking for spark in some other bar. No offense, but you shouldn't have married her. If I were you, I would file for divorce and find someone better. Cheaters get better at hiding the cheating, or, if they don't care, they're blatant about it. It doesn't sound like she wants to be married to you. You're there for her, but she doesn't sound like she's interested in being there for you. Find someone better for yourself. I left my cheating ex-wife 20 years ago. I've spent 14 of these last 20 years with a much better woman. Do the same for yourself. Thank you for listening to the story to the end, and if you liked it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story.
I'm Adam, 35 years old. My wife, Leah, used to be my best friend's girlfriend. One day, we all went on a double date, and things took a turn. I also had a girlfriend, Jenny, at that time. She wanted to break up with me, but I didn't know. During our double date, Leah and my friend argued about drinking alcohol. I stepped in, but it escalated, and my friend raised his hand on Leah. I intervened and ended up slapping him. He broke up with Leah on the spot, leaving her in tears. Later, when I dropped Jenny home, we argued too. She scolded me for defending Leah, saying my friend had helped me in tough times. Confused, I couldn't understand why Jenny was so upset. She broke up with me on the same day Leah and I had our breakups. It was strange and surprising because Leah and my friend, Fred, seemed so happy together for a long time. But we eventually discovered that Jenny actually liked Fred, and they planned to break up with us to be together. They cheated on both of us and were now getting married. Leah was deeply saddened by this betrayal. She withdrew from social activities, stayed home, and was silent even at college. I was worried about her because she was not only my wife but also my friend. The situation left us both shocked and hurt. I comforted her, and she comforted me. Our friendship turned into love. Leah used to say that if we got into a relationship, people might think we were already together. I said, let them think that. We didn't cheat on them. We grew even closer, and after living together for 3 months, we decided to get married. But I knew very well that Leah loved my friend Fred very much. We were together from school and college. She was crazy for him and wanted to spend the rest of her life with him. However, when she cheated, she married me. It will always stay in a corner of my heart, and I thought I would never forget it. She was my wife, and I didn't want to talk about her ex. Our life was going well, and we had no problems with each other. But I had always seen Leah so happy with Fred. She was not as happy with me as she used to be with him. She was only doing her duty until one day something happened that surprised me. She was crying in the basement of the house. In the basement, where she was sitting on the ground crying, I got worried seeing her. I asked, "What's the matter? Why are you crying?" She said, "How bad happened to me? He cheated on me, and I married you." I don't know, I don't understand anything. Who am I? I feel like I cheated on him because I loved him so much, but yet I married you. That makes me a cheater too. She was crying, so I started holding her. In my heart, I was thinking, how is she saying these things? I am her husband, and she is talking to me about her ex-boyfriend. She cried and fell asleep in my arms, and I carried her to the bedroom. I looked at her. She was a very sweet girl. My friend had not done well with her. Of course, it is not easy to forget the first love. I didn't love Jenny. I just liked her and we were together. But I think Leah loved Fred a lot. When she got better, I told her that she should forget about Fred because he cheated and he got busy in his life. She should also move on with her life. She said, "Forgive me, I can't handle myself, but now I understand my priorities. Now I will live with you in a good way." After that, our life was quite good, and everything was perfect as husband and wife. We lived together. But I always felt that she was not completely mine. When we were very close to each other, I used to feel that I had her body but not her soul. Perhaps her soul is still with Fred. We used to live together. Whatever my wife was doing, the job, I told her that there is no need to do a job. But she used to say that if she stayed at home, her time would not pass. Maybe she doesn't want to spend time with me. That's why she used to work in a bank. 2 years passed, and it turns out that Jenny has left Fred because she never wanted to get married. I don't know why she got married at that time. She wasn't that kind of girl. She just wanted to have a good time with whomever she could have a good time with. I also once asked her about marriage, but she said that she didn't want to get married. Marriage is a huge responsibility. I want to enjoy my life. I'm young. I'm beautiful. Until the day I'm young and beautiful, I want to live my life my way. When I'm 40, I'll marry someone, have a couple of kids. I will do it, and then life will pass. Ever since the news came that Fred had gotten divorced from his wife, Leah seems to be a little lost, and she was missing something. She told me, "You should go to meet your friend. I heard he is very sad, and his condition is very bad." I said, "I will not meet him because he quarreled with me over a girl. Our friendship is over. He was quite an old friend of mine, but she didn't treat me well." Leah explained to me that he is your friend, and you must go. Rather, we both should go. But I told Leah that you will not go. I will go by myself. I don't want to go in front of him with you. On this, Leah made a strange face, but then said, "It's fine. You can go on your own. We had been married for 3 years, but we still had no children." I don't know what was the reason. I was trying my best, but maybe Leah was taking some medicine due to which we were not having any children yet. After the checkup with the doctor, he advised that Leah needed to change her routine and lifestyle. The doctor recommended that she stay relaxed, eat healthy food, focus on positive thoughts, and adopt a positive attitude for everything to be fine. Despite my life not being as it should have been, everything was going fine, and I found myself busy with work, leaving little time for other things. Occasionally, I would go out alone on weekends without taking my wife, as her presence tended to bring a somber atmosphere. My mood was affected, and for 4 days, we kept our distance. However, I would eventually express my need for her in bed, and she would come to me. During those moments of intimacy, it sometimes felt like I was connecting with someone else. At Leah's request, I decided to meet my friend. However, upon reaching his place, the servant informed me that he did not want to meet anyone and was resting. I expressed my anger, regretting my decision to visit, and returned home without informing Leah. I received a call from a girl at the bank where my wife Leah worked. She shared something important, revealing that Leah had become involved with a coworker and they both had left their jobs. Shocked by this news, I learned that they regularly went to a motel together. Feeling hurt, I decided to follow them one day and witness them heading to a place known for intimate encounters. Discovering that my wife was cheating on me was painful, especially because I had supported her through similar experiences in the past. Filled with anger and frustration, I devised a plan to seek revenge for the betrayal. I called 2 friends from school, explaining that I wanted to punish my wife severely. These friends, currently unemployed, agreed to help. When my wife returned home, I had already arranged for my friends to be there. I instructed them to assault and mistreat her, seeking retribution for the pain and hardships I endured, only to be betrayed in the end. It was a drastic and regrettable decision fueled by intense emotions. When asked why she did all this, she said, "I was fed up with my life. Seeing you made me miss my ex again and again, and I wanted to be in a relationship with someone none of you know." She added, "I was about to leave when she said that, and only after that, we assaulted her. Her condition was very bad, but I left her and asked the 2 friends to leave. I told my wife, 'Now go to whomever you want from here.' I was someone who could not tolerate any woman being wronged, but today I did the same because it was my wife who brought me to this point. Despite treating her well, she cheated on me and had a physical relationship with another person. I told her to leave the house. It was her fault too, so she didn't say anything and left. However, she told me that she would regret it a lot. I responded, 'Maybe I will, but what you have done will be worse for you, and more than that, it will be bad for me. I was a good person whom you made bad, but you were always a bad person.' 6 months passed, and I realized that I had not been good to my wife. Whatever she did to me was wrong, but I shouldn't have retaliated in that way. If she was a bad person, and I became a bad person, then what difference did it make? So I set out to find my wife. She was staying at a friend's house. I told her friend that I wanted to meet her, and at first, she refused. Eventually, she agreed, and when I saw my wife, I was surprised to find out that she was pregnant. When we were together, she couldn't get pregnant, and all this was the result of that day. My wife said that we are friends, but she doesn't know who is the father of this child. Either me, one of my 2 friends, or her boyfriend. She expressed her wish for me not to be the father as I don't deserve to be one. I was shocked and left quietly. I had done everything, and now, what was the future of this child? The child shouldn't be punished for the mistakes of both of us. I was very worried, but my wife left the city forever, and after that, I did not know anything about her. Life is indeed strange, and we, as people, can be equally strange. Unfortunately, that's just how life is. My wife's lingering love for her first love took a toll on all our lives. To try and forget, she married me, opted not to have children, and eventually cheated on me, all driven by her emotions. Strangely, even with all these decisions, she couldn't find happiness, and I too am left unsatisfied. Fred is the one to blame for all this chaos. If he hadn't broken the heart of my beautiful wife, she might not have taken these extreme actions. I'm angry and my mind is in disarray. How could I have done such a terrible thing as to involve my friends in assaulting her? I'm not that kind of person, but circumstances overwhelmed me, and now I regret my actions deeply. My wife has left with the child, who might be my son, but I can never bring myself to see him. Every time I think about it, my heart breaks. My wife did wrong, but what I did was equally terrible, and I am profoundly ashamed of my actions.
Hello, welcome to Informer. Today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Here is my story. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joni, and today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Now let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. My wife and I were married for 13 years. She was a second-grade teacher at an elementary school. For several years, there were a few parent-teacher conferences and school faculty parties that we attended together. I got to meet her colleagues and even the principal and his wife. In 2015, my wife and I had a daughter of our own. From my perspective, life was perfect. My 1049 decided to treat us to a trip to Hollywood, California, since my wife had a passion for the film industry and movies. We each brought 2 friends. As a group, we toured a few of the film sets for The Mandalorian. Afterwards, we split up. The girls went to a nightclub while the guys went to a casino aiming to win some money playing poker. While we were apart, my wife texted me about all the naughty things she wanted to do to me when we got back to the hotel room. I got back early around 11 p.m., showered, and ready to have fun. She didn't return until well after 1 a.m. in a drunken stupor. Clearly, nothing was happening tonight, so I tucked her into bed and plugged in her phone. When it lit up, I noticed a text from someone named Bill that read, "I wish I was there with you." This wasn't on her default messaging app, so I unlocked her phone and started reading through their conversation. About the school, students, and other things, I was able to figure out that it was the principal. Mixed into their casual conversation were messages of adoration and flirting. My wife sent him pictures of her in her hot outfits and lingerie that was supposed to be for my eyes only. After he told her how hot she was, they discussed how bad it would be if anyone found out about them talking. So they decided they would change their passwords and refrain from texting each other in front of their spouse. It was a terrible plan, and my wife apparently forgot to change her passcode. He also told her he loved her, and I was devastated that she said she loved him too. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my phone. I found AP's wife on social media. I deleted all traces of my gathering evidence before setting my wife's phone down and waking her up with one question. I asked her why she was messaging the principal of her school. She sat straight up in bed with a gasp and asked me what I was talking about. It looked like she glanced around for her phone too. I told her not to play dumb and that I just read everything and wanted answers. She covered her face and wailed. Before I asked anything, she said she only played along because he said his wife didn't love him anymore. She immediately promised me she would never speak to him again. I told her I didn't care if they continued their relationship because we were over, and everyone around town was going to hear what was going on between them. She begged me, sobbing, not to tell anyone about it. I'm sure she would have jumped me if she knew I had the evidence on my phone. I knew she wouldn't leave the hotel without doing her hair and makeup, so I left her there, luggage in hand. Just before the door slammed shut, she screamed that this would ruin our lives. I knew that, and I wanted it to ruin hers and his. Our daughter and I would cope, but when I thought of her, I did feel despair. Her mother betrayed us. I told my MIL and wife's friends that I discovered my wife's affair with the school principal. They could hardly believe it and didn't say much. My 1049 apologized to me and said this came as a shock to her. She said she regretted taking us on the trip, but I told her not to blame herself. The only people who needed to feel bad were my wife and AP. I left the hotel with my friends and reached out to AP's wife to tell her everything, along with the proof. The town we lived in, where my wife taught second grade, was a small, close-knit town. Word traveled fast, and chances were everyone knew of you. After I told AP's wife the terrible news, she took it to social media and reported their affair to the Department of Education herself. My wife was correct. This did ruin their lives. Neither of them was permitted to set foot in the school again, and both of them were served divorce papers. The proof I gathered ensured that I received full custody of our daughter, and we got to keep the house. My wife had no choice but to stay with one of her friends because her mother and everyone else turned against her. From what I heard, the principal left the state after he lost his career and family. Now, let's get into the second story. My fiancée was an extremely spoiled woman. She always had things handed to her, but she never noticed. She just thought it was easy and things would always work out. A part of me fell for this optimism of hers because she drew people in like sunshine. It's no wonder people gave her whatever she wanted. We dated for 2.5 years before I proposed. I met her family a year into our relationship, and we grew close, and I felt like she was meant to be my wife. We started planning our wedding, and it was sure to be a grand event. Her parents spared no expense, agreeing to anything their daughter wanted. One day, she took one of her bridesmaids named Heather to order our wedding cake. When she came home, I expected to hear all about it and see pictures of what she decided on. Instead, she seemed off. She said she didn't feel good and needed to lay down. I asked her how it went, but all she said was that they weren't able to pick one out. I was worried about her, but it was just the start of her odd behavior. Over the next 4 weeks, there were several odd occurrences. One night, my fiancée told me she needed to take one of her bridesmaids out to dinner because she was tempted to cheat on her husband. I was surprised, but wished her luck persuading her friend that cheating is never worth it. She didn't get back until I was fast asleep, and all she said the next day was that she did her best to convince her. Another night, she left the apartment while I was in the shower. It was completely unexpected, so I tried calling her, but she didn't answer until the third try. She said she realized we needed kitty litter for the cats. After she hung up on me, I found a full bag of kitty litter in the back of the closet, like she hid it from me. When she got back 3 hours later without kitty litter, I asked her if she was having doubts about us. She immediately said no and added that I didn't need to be so concerned when she stepped out. This was bad and weird. I asked her if her friend was cheating on her husband. This caught her off guard, but she admitted her friend was. I said that was too bad and that she should tell her friend's husband so he could file for divorce. She just looked at me like I was crazy and said she wouldn't rat on her friend, even if she was cheating on him. I told her that while it's true that cheating ruins lives, he deserves to know the truth of his wife's betrayal because no one would want to stay married to a cheater. She couldn't look me in the eye, and it was clear she didn't want to talk about it anymore. Suddenly, there was just 1 month left before the wedding. My fiancée came home late, claiming she was at a birthday party for Heather. After she passed out in bed, I got a message from Heather herself. She told me that she didn't feel right coming to me, but she didn't feel right keeping secrets either. My fiancé had told her to lie to me if I asked about her birthday party. On top of that, she was with her when she was supposed to order our wedding cake. She met a man there who started flirting with her. He asked if she was sure she wanted to get married because he could win her heart if she let him. She was taken aback but gave him her number and basically invited him to try. Heather asked me if she'd been acting weird or if I suspected she was seeing someone else. I told her yes and thanked her for telling me. While she slept, I checked her phone. I found messages between her and AP even before she got home that night. He asked if he was winning her heart, and she replied yes. That night, as my fiancée slept, I installed spyware on her phone so I could see what they said to each other. When she woke up, I told her I was going to stay at my best man's house, Josh, until the ceremony in 1 month for superstitious reasons. She didn't argue with me at all and actually seemed pleased that she would have the house to herself. While we lived separately, she increased the intimacy and romantic messages she sent to AP, even telling him he was a better lover than me. And I was already coping with the end of our relationship. I knew I wasn't marrying this woman, and she was surely going to call off the wedding at any minute. Well, she didn't. She tells AP through the phone that she has to marry me because her family has already accepted and approved of me. However, since I hadn't discovered their affair yet, they would keep seeing each other until she could frame me for cheating on her so she could get the house and alimony payments. I could not believe the sheer evilness of her plan. She wanted to completely ruin my life, even though I didn't do anything to deserve this. I told my best man, Josh, everything. He helped me to plan revenge against her. I had images of their messages, so we planned the most embarrassing moment of her life. The day of the wedding came, and we got ready as if it was the real deal, except we had a few surprises in store. The chapel had a speaker system installed, so we wired ourselves with small microphones. I stood at the altar, presenting every moment I spent with this entitled bimbo as my would-be wife walked down the aisle, surrounded by her emotional and supportive family. They snapped pictures and filmed. Suddenly, Josh stepped forward and said, "Wait a minute." His voice was loud and clear and instantaneously made everyone uncomfortable. The bride stopped walking. Josh looked at my face, even grabbed it sarcastically, and said, "I think we have the wrong lover." Everyone gasped as he rushed over to the curtain behind us, pulling it aside to reveal he dressed in a suit, holding a sign that read "Marry me instead." The bride fainted. Everyone really started freaking out. They didn't know what to think, but I could tell they wanted to be mad at someone. When she came to with a damp cloth on her head, her family demanded answers. She didn't even know that Josh and I contacted AP, asking him to marry her instead. We were able to convince him that it was what she truly wanted and that their wedding would be a happy, wonderful day. He got down on one knee with his sign, and my fiancée only started sobbing. Her family was still demanding answers as she stared at me with tears streaming down her face. Her father finally had enough and grabbed AP by the arm, dragging him outside. She dropped to her knees in front of me at the altar, begging me to forgive her because she truly wanted to marry me, which is why she didn't call off the wedding. I didn't say a word. Josh started reading the messages between her and AP, pronouncing the naughtiest words loud and clear. It became super awkward in the room, and her family started to believe she was cheating on me before everyone started filing out. Her mother wailed over how much money they spent on the wedding. She asked her how she had the audacity to ruin her life in the future by sleeping with another man when she was engaged to be married. Everyone, including Josh and I, left my would-be wife alone in the chapel. Since that day, her only goal has been to get back her family's trust and support. But after that nightmare, I doubt things will ever be easy for her again. After having an altercation outside, AP realized pretty quickly that he messed up too. That's the story. If you liked it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story. Thank you for being here with us. Hello, welcome to Relation Tales. Today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Here is my story. I, 36, male, was working every day as a dentist. I was the father of 2 young children, and I trusted their mother, 30, female, more than anyone. She was supposed to be my rock, my life partner. Her dream was to travel around the world. She was very smart and acted for years like a respectable woman, so I wanted to make her dream come true. Even before our wedding day, it became impossible for me to picture living my life without her. We were married for 6 years before we had our first child. 4 years later, we had our second. Shortly after our second-born's 5th birthday, my wife celebrated 10 years of employment with her company. Our life was better than I ever could have asked for. We celebrated by hosting a party in her home. Several of her colleagues came over, and it was only the second time I got to meet them in all those years. Everyone seemed really nice. Several people complimented me and my wife. All of them got to see or meet our kids, who got out of bed to investigate mom and dad's friends. I didn't notice anything weird about the party or the people there. My wife was a little excited and jittery, but that was how she usually got whenever she was at a social gathering. She didn't know it, but I was saving up money as fast as I could for a trip to Australia to celebrate her upcoming 20th wedding anniversary. I worked 6 days a week, so I was looking forward to this more than any whole Sunday. I had the thought at least once a week that our area needed more dentists. Literally just days after the party we hosted and days before I planned on telling my wife and kids about the trip I had planned, my M texted me. All she said was, "She's cheating on you." I replied with lots of question marks, and when she didn't reply back, I called her. She sighed before admitting that there were lots of people who knew my wife was cheating on me. She started an affair about 2 years prior with one of her colleagues. Completely taken aback, I asked why she nor anyone else ever told me about it. She said she didn't tell me about it because it was her daughter, and she didn't want to be the one to tell her secret. But after so long of an affair, she couldn't take it anymore and reasoned that I deserved to know so either of us had a chance at getting married again. I couldn't believe my wife was shamelessly seeing another man, and none of her co-workers felt like telling me. Then she added that my wife was looking forward to this upcoming business trip. My wife told her that work trips were the only time she could feel guilt-free with AP. Then she admitted to her mother that she might be enjoying her affair more than her marriage. I asked my what I was supposed to do about custody of the children, which I immediately regretted because she started saying that my wife was still an excellent mother so I could let her have it. That's when I hung up. Now that I knew the truth, I was going to start taking my life back. I felt like a fool as I explained the situation to my lawyer. How did I not see any signs? My lawyer suggested I obtain evidence of some kind before confronting her about it. So before she left me with the kids to go on the business trip she was so looking forward to, I asked her where it would be held and wrote down the address. She probably assumed I just asked for safety reasons. She kissed the kids goodbye and then tried to kiss me. I pulled away, but she didn't ask me why. She just looked at me a moment before she shrugged and left. That's how I knew she didn't care about me anymore. I planned to surprise her at the address she gave me. I left our kids with my mom, who was very eager to see them. She lived independently 45 minutes away from us, far enough that she wasn't comfortable driving, so having the kids at her house didn't happen very often. I needed her more than ever at this point. I arrived at the address of a fancy hotel. There were several luxurious rooms for social gatherings. I found the one for my wife's company and started recognizing people as I walked around. I held my phone recording as I searched for her. If she so shamelessly spent time with this man around her co-workers, I could think of no better way to get proof and confront her. People I met before stared at me, probably wondering where they knew me from. One woman gasped and didn't take her eyes off me. She knew this was it. My wife was busted. Several other people noticed me looking around and remembered who I was. By the time I made eye contact with my wife, we had an audience of about 80 people. She had another man's arm around her waist. I could tell that just a moment before she saw me, she was extremely comfortable, having a marvelous time. I was shell-shocked. My wife dropped her wine glass as I felt my anger reach a point I never felt before in my life. All the years I spent with her and our children's faces flashed in my head. I thought about flipping over a table full of food, but I was recording her and AP at this moment. I was trembling as I rhetorically asked if anyone cared to tell me the truth about my wife. No one said a word. No one moved. I asked her directly why she cheated on me. Even though on the grand scale of things, it didn't matter why my wife cheated on me, I felt like I needed to know. I wanted her to explain on camera why it wasn't good enough for her. In front of all the people she worked with, she looked extremely stupid when she just stammered that she didn't know why. I scoffed loudly and yelled that our kids deserved a better mother than I walked out. Later that night, after I was back at home with our kids, my MIL called, begging me to give my wife another chance. She said it wasn't her place to tell me what my wife was doing. I thanked her for telling me the truth because anyone deserves to know when they're being cheated on. She paused before asking me again to forgive my wife so she could come back home. She went on to explain that she didn't have room for her to move in and just flat out didn't want her to live with her. I laughed a hearty laugh and hung up. Neither her nor her daughter cared about me. They were only thinking of themselves. For some reason, my MIL became annoyed by the fact that everyone knew about my wife's affair except for me, so she told me the truth because it was what she wanted to do. Now that it inconvenienced her, she wanted me to forgive her daughter. She didn't even say it was for her daughter's sake. She just wanted her house back. Wouldn't you believe that my wife called me just 2 days later, asking me to forgive her because she didn't want to live with her mom. She said she was sorry, but I knew her tears were because she hated the consequences of cheating on me, not because she felt remorse for breaking apart our family. I had already uploaded the video online and attached it to an email to her company. She and AP lost their jobs already. I took this time to tell her that I saved up money for a trip to Australia, intending to celebrate our 20th anniversary. But now it was going to be a trip for me to celebrate being a father to 2 amazing kids. My mom would be taking her ticket. She didn't believe me at first, but then she started throwing a tantrum. This was the best and worst karma for her to experience. She was missing out on her lifelong dream that I made possible, all because she started a shameless 2-year-long affair with a colleague. I'm happy to say that the trip to Australia was absolutely incredible, and it really helped me to grow as a father and heal as a man. Now let's get into the second story. My wife, 27, female, and I, 28, male, got married young when we were 20 and 21. I met her through friends while I was attending college, and I fell in love. Before I met her, I never thought I'd let my guard down for a woman so quickly, but I believe we were meant to become a pair. I obtained my degree the same year my wife became pregnant. Life was moving fast for us, but I never felt worried or scared. My parents were her parents were thrilled she was settling down and staying out of trouble. She never told me much about her past, but she had a lot of friends. It seemed that for much of our relationship, if not all of it, I was sharing her with her friends. After she had our son, she went back to socializing and insisted I stay home to watch him while she went out. At least once a week, I easily agreed to this. I felt like we were living the perfect dream. After a while, I wanted us to go out together, but my wife didn't trust either of our parents to watch her son. I thought that was pretty frustrating because they were supposed to help us and smother their grandson with love. So, things stayed the same. She went out with her friends, then sometimes she'd watch the baby while I went out. I didn't like this separation. Before I got to talk to her about it, she started acting weirder. Each night she went out, she'd tell me which friends she was going to meet. She started to get scrambled and forgot which names she told me. The next day, I pointed out her inconsistencies and how she was always vague about what they did. Each night, she got nervous and said she had to lie to her mom about who she hung out with because her mom hated one of the girls she spent time with. So, that's why she got confused and told me the wrong story. I did not believe this at all. It was just alarming. How could she forget which truth to tell me? If her mom didn't like one of her friends, that isn't a very complex lie to keep straight, and it wouldn't mean she'd have to lie to me at all. I didn't want to cause an argument because I could tell my wife was in defense mode. While she was out another night, I called my MIL. I asked her who my wife said she went out with the night before. She was audibly uncomfortable and put on the spot. She cursed a little and sighed heavily. She assumed the jig was up and admitted my wife was seeing someone else because she had some growing up to do. I was shocked and hurt. My M justified my wife's cheating ways, blaming it on her immaturity. She assured me that my wife would learn from this if I could let it go this time. I hung up on her. I looked at my son and felt broken, like I would never be the same after this. When my wife returned, I told her I knew everything. She looked at our son and instantly broke down. She told me she needed me to forgive her. She said exactly what her mom said. That she was young and stupid and made a bad decision, but she didn't deserve to lose our family. It was honestly really annoying to hear her talk about what she didn't deserve. She didn't deserve me, my trust, or the nice home we had as a family. I dedicated myself to her even though I was just a year older than her. Why should I accept this when it's the one thing I never expected her to do? It's the one thing I decided I wouldn't tolerate in my marriage. With these thoughts fueling me, I told her to go stay with her mom. She took our son with her to her mom's. In a way, it felt like she was trying to punish me for refusing to forgive her. During the divorce, I realized I needed to obtain solid evidence of my wife's affair. I knew I wouldn't be able to get anything from her or her mom directly, so I served subpoenas on my wife's cellular company. As soon as she heard about this, she, in turn, requested a protective order in an attempt to squash my efforts proving her infidelity. Thankfully, the court saw what she was trying to do and sided with me. I had the right to engage in discovery, which might lead to evidence of her adultery. To no one's surprise, blatant evidence of an affair was found. Images and texts sent between her and more than 5 other men all the time she ever planned to go out with AP were there, along with the plan she made to hook up with 2 other men. I'm happy to say that I won primary custody and have since healed from this experience. I started dating a wonderful woman 1 year and 2 months ago today. She's a young widow with a young I can't explain it, but it feels like my story was already written. I know I was always meant to be with this woman, as much as I am meant to be a respectable father figure towards children. I feel like I've grown wiser and saw straight through my ex and her mother's manipulation tactics. Thank you. That's the story. If you liked it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello, welcome to Blue Fact. Please like this video and subscribe Blue Facts. Here is my story. My wife is 32 years old and I am 33 years old. We have always had a warm relationship. We were high school sweethearts and got married after she got pregnant. Her pregnancy was a reason for us to get married. We always had intimacy and enjoyed it from the beginning with very few interruptions. I can say that we have had a very happy life together so far, and there is no reason to think otherwise. However, ever since we had our son, we've had a hard time raising him because he was always sick. The doctors thought he was anemic. When he turned 14 years old, he began to flare up more often. He would seize gas, which would make him hunched over and feel like he couldn't move. He was always exhausted. He could sleep for hours, and no matter how much he slept, he would be exhausted. He always had lightheadedness, and sometimes the vertigo attacks would come out of nowhere. We usually found out when we did blood work because he was always sick, and we were frustrated because we never knew the cause. And since it was so random, I always felt bad about what he was going through because I don't know anyone in my family with this type of disease. And we never did a test to find out where it came from since it might not have been hereditary, so I just assumed it was somewhere on my wife's side of the family. The doctor did some tests, and they always showed that he had anemia, which could be hereditary or acquired, so we weren't sure. It affected our family, and it became our new normal. Luckily, we went to another doctor, and he discovered he had celiac disease. He eliminated gluten, and he felt like a normal person again. Celiac disease is hereditary, meaning it is inherited. Oddly enough, my wife and I were both happy because for the first time in our lives, we could actually control the exacerbations and were not going to continue to arrange our lives based on hospital visits and being prepared to take our son to the emergency room at any moment. We were relieved for once in 14 years. Little did we know that this would only be the beginning of the destruction of our marriage, knowing that the root cause of where he inherited his disease from would be devastating to our family and would reveal a 15-year-old secret that only my wife could answer. The doctor recommended that my wife and I get a blood test to find out which part of the family the disease came from. We did the blood test, and it came back negative. This means no antibodies to celiac disease were detected in our blood. We did another test, and the result was the same. At our next visit, the doctor was confused and asked if our son was adopted. We said no. He kind of stopped there, but it was awkward, and I noticed my wife was uncomfortable. As we drove home from the doctor's office, I was unusually quiet. My thoughts were turning to the time our son was conceived. I remember suggesting jokingly that we take a paternity test at that time because I was still using protection. She could have freaked out or taken a defensive stance, but all she had to do was act normal to make it go away. I was actually joking, and now more than ever, I regret it. She knew I was joking. Now I have my doubts. I didn't dare question her about it even though the thought was unthinkable. I raised him from birth. He is my world. He is my legacy. Sleepless night, the pain and suffering, the deception to something that was beyond my wildest dreams. The thought that he might not be mine was something unfathomable. I was afraid to even take a DNA test because of what I might find. I finally mustered up the courage to order a test kit online and mailed it in. The result came back. My world came crashing down. I didn't know what to do. I can't understand it. We went to college together and had very few problems. We had, or so I thought, a happy life together. We have similar work schedules, and I never once suspected anything was going on behind my back. And yet, this is not my son. When she came home that day, she found me lying on the floor with a half-empty bottle of whiskey. I didn't even notice she was home until she tried to wake me up. I asked her who the baby's father was, and she backed off and looked embarrassed. She then replied in anger that the father was me. I told her she lied, and she lied to me for 14 years. I told her I had a DNA test, and it showed he was not mine. She asked me if she could see the DNA test, and I told her no, and for her to answer the damn question. Instead of answering questions about who the biological dad is, she tried to turn the tables on me by mumbling about how I could do a paternity test for our son as if I had done something wrong by taking a paternity test. Trying to imagine that taking a paternity test was worse than dealing with another man and then bringing home a child from 14 years ago. And lying to me to raise him as my own, trying to make it seem like it was my fault for taking the DNA test. I told her she was the cause. While our son has been in agony for 14 years, she knew the cause. She should have known, but she let him suffer and let me suffer to hide her secret. She tried her best to distract herself and shift the blame, and I finally told her that if she didn't tell me who the baby's father was, I would contact every man she had contacted or socialized within the last 14 years. And asked for a DNA test from them. My eyes were blood red, so she knew I was completely serious. She finally couldn't take it anymore, telling me he belonged to a co-worker from her previous job. She told me that she had been in love with this guy for about a month. They had intimacy a couple of times and then they stopped because she loved me so much. And for that whole month, I suspected absolutely nothing and happily lived my happy life. Until now. I can't trust her now. I can barely look her in the eye. I thought we had everything we wanted and we were already planning to have a baby when it came along. We were happy. I was genuinely happy, and now I can't escape the feeling that our entire marriage was a lie. We have a big house, nice cars, a good life without financial worries, but I lost the most important thing. She said it just happened that one time. She felt adventurous. She just wanted something out of the ordinary, but I can't believe her. It wasn't just a lie. My life has become a lie, and I feel like I've lost everything but meaningless things. She's not the person I knew. He's not my son, and basically, I'm alone and without an offspring of my own. I couldn't hold back the tears. I couldn't stay in my house any longer. I called my boss at work and told him everything, that I wouldn't be going to work anytime soon and I needed some time off. He was worried about my mental state. He insisted on driving to my house to make sure I was okay. I wasn't very close to my boss, but he drove up to my house and took me to a restaurant that night so I could spend some time away from home. He told me later that it reminded him of an incident where his friend found out his child wasn't his and harmed himself. He wanted to be there to make sure I had all the support I needed. He encouraged me to take some time off and do something I had always wanted to do but couldn't because of my responsibilities. I've always wanted to travel, never traveled out of the country except for Mexico because I was always working to provide for my family. And I wanted to be there for my son in case of an emergency. That's why we never traveled much. I wanted to go to developing countries, to a safe place that was unusual enough to give me culture shock. After my boss told me, I suddenly felt happy. It was a nice distraction, a new adventure. My wife and I had always wanted to go to Kenya, Namibia, and Thailand, so I felt this might be a great opportunity for me. She told me I was running away from my problems, but I told her I needed space to think. It gets worse. I can't look at the boy the same way. It's not his fault, and I loved this little pest before he was born, but I don't feel that way now. I feel like he's someone I raised, but he's not my son. I've been taken away by this connection to him, to her, to everything. I applied for a tourist visa to Kenya and received it within 48 hours. I had a lot to look forward to, and I would advise anyone going through something like this to go somewhere else, somewhere with a different culture. It's perfect for a short-term distraction. It wasn't the best time to be in Kenya, but the distraction was good for my mental health. Literally for a few hours, I didn't have to think about my son or my wife, just the locals and nature. I had fun snorkeling, boating, people looking at you with genuine love in their eyes even if they don't know you. It was what I needed at the time. But after a week in Mombasa, I went home to get my house in order. I made a decision to divorce my wife. When I got home, I wanted to go back to where I just came from. Home is not home when she is here. I can't look at her, I can't stand her voice, and I have become cold to the boy, which makes me feel completely miserable. He's a smart kid and he already knows something's wrong, but I can't help it. I won't leave the boy ever. I feel disconnected from him, and I also attribute that to the fact that this is breaking news. Either way, it has to stop, and I know it. My marriage is different. My wife wanted us to go to marriage counseling, saying it happened a long time ago and she has been good ever since. Or what can I say? She never cheated on me again after that. I used protection while I was with her, and she was stalked by a former co-worker. She knew 14 years ago that the baby wasn't mine, but she lied for 14 years. How can I trust anything she says? I demanded an amicable divorce to give me a chance to heal. We have to share custody of my son, and I will still be his legal father. I still love him, and it's not his fault, as long as my wife agrees with everything. I don't know if I will eventually feel the same way about my son, and it scares the hell out of me. I told my soon-to-be ex-wife that I want her to contact the biological father and let him know. Right now, it's better for things to come out. She wanted me to keep it from the biological father as well as family and friends. I agreed as long as, until the divorce was finalized, I would tell my parents. Telling my parents would be a hard pill to swallow. I'm still young, I can still start a new family, and it will be the best way to get over the cheating. Right now, I have already filed for divorce, and it will be finalized in the next 6 months. Right now, I'm mainly looking for an apartment and will leave the house to my soon-to-be ex-wife and son. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'll see you again. Take care. Thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe my channel.